Welcome one and all to the Defo Show with Lubie, without Defo, just Lubie, here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Brought to you in part by Water Cleanup of Florida. We've been talking about this the last few days, so always a big fan. You might not be, but I am. I'm bringing whatever's going on in my world to what we do here, and just fixed a home issue. Was not something Water Cleanup of Florida could fix, but now knowing that they're in my lives, it makes me think about them every time something happens with the home, because the way they deal with issues, the way they deal with problems. Look, it was an AC issue, and it's someone we've worked with before, and they do a good job, and they've been fine with this. But it sort of did leave something to be desired. And with cool about Water Cleanup of Florida, that's not the case with them. They're on it from day one. Look, between Michael, Robert, and their team, they have over 6 years of experience. Okay, you don't last that long in any industry without knowing what you're doing, without being quality, without being timely. And the fact that you can reach out to them 24/7, and you know you're going to get their best effort, plus having licensed contractors, saving time really makes life so much easier. And not knowing about things and not having to wonder where you're going to go and who you're going to go to also makes life easier. Water Cleanup of Florida, if you have a mold issue, water, be it flood or just any other kind of water issue, fire, it can be a pain in the rear. But the fact that Water Cleanup of Florida is out there, they will come, assess the situation, and fix it for you. One-stop shopping, as they say, and make your life easier. Don't we all want that? I know I want that, so I'm presuming you want that too. Just give them a call. 954-579-0356. 954-579-0356. Just mention 5 Reasons or Lubie, and you'll get a free inspection during business hours. Check them out on the website as well. We are digital here. They are digital as well. WCUFL.com. WCUFL.com. Speaking of digital, check them out on the socials. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Water Cleanup FL. Water Cleanup of Florida. We clean up your schmutz. The schmutz has been wiped away from the South Florida sports scene when it comes to basketball, as the fact that the Heat are done. The NBA Finals do start tonight, though. Warriors, Celtics. I've been pretty consistent in how I feel. Even before the Finals was set up, I thought the Warriors would win it all, and I thought either the Celtics or the Heat would at most take them to 6 games. That hasn't changed for me, but you'll hear more of my opinions. But more importantly, the opinions of a guy who has covered the NBA for over 2 decades, writer, analyst for Heavy.com, has written for Sports Illustrated, Forbes Sports, and an author as well, covering the NBA, editor now for Heavy.com. Sean Deveney has joined us many a time, and he talks lots of Heat and some NBA Finals right here on the Devo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. This is a gentleman who's been on with us 4 years. He's been involved in the basketball world. He's an author as well. We don't mention that enough. He is actually an author. We should actually give him a lot more pub for that. Defo and I are 2 guys that have talked about writing books. Defo a lot more than I have, and of course none of us have gotten through a first chapter. So good for this gentleman. Now with Heavy.com, the one and only Sean Deveney joins me now to talk a little NBA Finals, and of course I'll lament about the Heat, and he'll give me some truth about the Heat. Good morning, the one and only Sean Deveney. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, Lubie. How are you?
I am doing well as well, especially since tonight we get back to the basketball world, the NBA Finals, after a respite from the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. 9 o'clock, ABC, Warriors, the dynasty of the last decade plus. The Celtics, who have actually been in the conference finals a ton of times, but the first time this organization has been to the NBA Finals in some time. All right, before we get to the finals, since we haven't really talked to you since the Heat season ended, they ended up gutting out a 7-game series when it looked like it was going to end. Everyone in the world, including myself, thought it was going to be over in 6. What was your final take about the Eastern Conference Finals, the Miami Heat, Boston Celtics?
Yeah, obviously the blowouts were the thing that sort of overshadowed everything. That it was a 7-game series, but a lot of the games weren't that competitive. Which was a bit of a surprise. But I think we learned a few things. I mean, the way Jimmy Butler played. I think there's some question, especially. He had a good regular season, not great, but to go to from 21 points during the regular season to 27 during the playoffs, and in that Game 6 performance in Boston, reminiscent of LeBron in 2012. I think we learned a few things about about Jimmy Butler, and that's positive. I think we probably learned some things about Bam Adebayo that we didn't want to know.
Yeah.
That he just disappeared way too much, and that can't happen. He's got to have a long sink this summer because he, you saw that game. What was it, game 3, where he just came in and really dominated. And we plays like that. He's good. He's great, and just disappears. So I don't know if he wants to be, deferred to Jimmy and the veterans or what, but he's got to be more assertive. I think that's pretty clear as well. So, a couple of things we want to know that, and then of course, on Boston's side, just what a terrific defensive team they are. Just disciplined, smart. Ime Udoka really showed himself as a coach. Jason Tatum, he kind of rising to that next level now, playing in the finals. So a little to learn from the Celtics as well. It was, like I said, the games weren't great, but I think there was a lot to glean from what we saw in those 7 games.
And before we move on to the finals, look, Defo always wondered where it started. I mean, it's clear where it started. The couple of years leading up to 2010 is when this became the thing, at least in the NBA. The offseason, especially for the Miami Heat, because Pat Riley is one of those guys that loves, quote-unquote, big game, big player hunting, that the Heat fan is quick to move into what's the future. So before we get to the finals, you talked about there are some questions. Look, Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, after last year's playoff run, to me, the big question was not getting a big name. It was, you have these 2 young guys who showed promise the year before. Can they take the next step? Well, the regular season they did. Tyler Hero was the second leading scorer, almost the leading scorer, while Jimmy Butler is a legit star in this league. Tyler Hero was the 6th man of the year, well-deserved, and had taken a step, it seemed. Bam Adebayo was averaging 19 and 10, had proven himself to be a legit top 5-ish big man in the league, a guy that was arguably the best defensive player in the league, and he finished with top 5, I guess, in the voting. So you were like, okay, look at these 2 dudes. They can, with the Jimmy Butler, now Lowry can just be the older guy to help lead them, which is where he is in his career. Well, then the playoffs came, and even before he got hurt, Tyler Hero was nowhere to be found. And Bam Adebayo was great defensively, was hard and hustle guy, but you're not paying him near max dollars to be that. Let alone you saw what he could do in Game 3 and Game 7, that he can be that guy. What are the biggest questions to you? Because Kyle Lowry is supposedly out of shape. Oladipo showed enough where a lot of people think he'll get big money that he can't afford him. You're hearing rumors about Donovan Mitchell and Beal possibly being options for the Heat. And then you also have Hero and Bam who do Jekyll and Hyde acts from regular season to playoffs. What are the biggest question marks to you as a national guy, as a guy on the outside looking into the Miami Heat?
Well, they're one of the few contenders who are in position to really make a deal that could impact, how they look next year. I don't think the Warriors are going to make a major trade. I don't think, Denver, go through the Western Conference teams. Phoenix might take a step backwards depending on what happens with DeAndre Ayton. Boston is right up against the luxury tax. You can't see them doing anything major. So, but the Heat, they've got Duncan Robinson, and obviously he was just a non-factor in the last part of the year and in the playoffs as well. He still has some value around the league. It's been damaged, obviously, by the way that the season has unfolded, certainly the way the playoffs are unfolded, but there are still plenty of teams who want shooters, and his reputation as a shooter is pretty good. So, I think they're in a position to do something starting with him, and then, you can package in some of the young guys who really did play well this year, whether it's, Gabe Vincent or year 7, they can do something with that. So they're in a position, I think, to make a difference-making trade, and I think it's going to be a matter of whether they, try to go all in on a guy like a Donovan Mitchell, which would be tough to do. They don't have the draft picks. That's the big thing is if you're going to get a guy like that, you've got to give up draft picks, and they just don't have them. They've given up too many of them over the years. So, they're in a position to do something, whether it's going to be a big thing or sort of bringing a solid contributor and then just really try to push to get Bam Adebayo at the level that he should be at, and maybe extend Tyler Hero and see what you do with him going forward as well. So, I don't think it's going to be like a blockbuster move, but they're in a position, I think, to make a move where they can add another guy who's really going to help them when playoff time comes.
Well, the one name, Sean, and then I promise whoever is watching and listening, we will get to the finals. But the one name out is Bradley Beal, and we've heard the same for like 3 or 4 years now. Not only just being interested in leaving because the Wizards haven't been good, and he's averaged 29 points a game the last 3 years, but we heard him linked directly to the Heat. Like, he threw out little things via all the socials, and there's just like a vibe of, it seems like he likes the Heat, quote unquote. But again, he's never asked out of Washington, and that's the key thing people would be waiting for him to ask out. What are you hearing about Bradley Beal? Like, the dude just got paid, he's getting his money, but from what we know, he wants to win, and it's not happening in Washington. Like, is there a possibility that this could be an offseason that you see Bradley Beal move?
I don't think so. I think he likes it there, and he wants to win. He wants to win there.
Okay.
I think we'll see sort of what he did last time, which is a short-term deal with an opt-out. Maybe even just a 1-and-1. Maybe a 2-and-1 where he signs for 2 years with an option on a third. I think that's where he's leaning. To give him one last chance to win a championship, or ask out and go to some place that can win a championship in the future. But from what I understand, and the vibe from Washington is that he's staying put at least for now. That I don't think he'll sign a 5-year deal. But I do think that he's going to stick there at least for a couple more years before he gets too old and can still be effective somewhere else if that's what he wants to do. But he's been committed to that franchise, and certainly they've been committed to him. I don't see that changing this summer.
All right, NBA writer, analyst, and he is an author. We don't give enough credit for that. Sean Deveney, heavy.com, at Sean Deveney on Twitter. He's really good on Twitter, so follow him. And he has his daughter. He's doing the balancing act, daughter watching Peppa Pig, and he's on with us, so good for him. I have my nephews for an hour, and I freak out. So I'm definitely in awe of you, sir. The man, the writer, analyst, and father you are. So thanks for joining us again, Sean. Okay, let's move into the finals. I've been on, and I'm in a soapbox, and I'm trying to not be biased. I felt this way when the Heat really looked like they had a shot to go to the finals. Like, yeah, if they had a healthy Lowry and a healthy Tucker and a healthy Hero playing well, I might not have felt this way. But what we were seeing, to me, it felt like the Warriors, and Klay hadn't played well yet, and Draymond was doing all the other things but hadn't scored yet. It just felt to me like it was inevitable. The Warriors, whether they face the Celtics or the Heat, were going to be the champions, and I wasn't even sure it'd be that competitive a series. Now, Boston has prevailed. They've overcome 2 tough, not each game, but overall 7-game series in the semis, and then the Eastern Conference Finals. And they have a team that's been in the conference finals. They have a guy in Udoka who's done a really good job. They have Tatum, who's a star, and they have Brown, who's damn near a star. And they are the number 1 defensive team. Okay, so nationally, I'm saying this is going to be a tough series. I don't believe it. Okay, but you know and follow a lot more than I do. What do you see with this series? Because to me, it feels like the Warriors were already better, and now Klay hits 8 threes in Game 6. And Steph didn't even have to score a lot. And Jordan Poole is coming into his own. And Andrew Wiggins is playing the best ball of his career since he was the number 1 pick out of Kansas. And you have Kuminga, and you have Klay, and you have Draymond Green now scoring 17. Like, they just, to me, feel like they're on another level. What do you see just out the offset for the NBA Finals?
Yeah, I'd be really surprised if the Warriors don't win this thing. And that's I have seen a lot of folks picking Boston, and I can understand why. But when you look at the Warriors over the course of this postseason, don't forget that when the playoffs started, Steph Curry hadn't played in like 3 weeks. He was coming off the bench for the first couple of games, and they looked a little bit of a mess. I mean, they did not defend well against Denver in that first round, but they still won the series pretty easily. And then they move on, and Memphis was a challenge. That's a good young team. They play with a lot of toughness. Obviously, Ja Morant gets hurt, and there's a lot going on in that series. And Golden State didn't look great, but they looked better than they did in the first round. By the time they get to the conference finals, and by the time, like I say, that the final game, that's Game 5 of the conference finals, now the Warriors, to me, they're defending at a high level. They've got Jordan Poole going. Steph really hasn't played great, but it started to have some of those real Steph moments. And Klay Thompson is looking good, and Kevon Looney is doing great on the defensive end.
Yep.
By the time that conference finals ended, the Warriors looked like the Warriors, and I think that was their MO all along, was to just keep improving each series to where you get to the finals and you're playing your best basketball. So the Celtics, they've been very impressive. They've also had a knack, as we've seen, to shoot themselves in the foot.
Yep.
Part of being a young team. So I just think that this is a lesson for the Celtics that's coming. That the Warriors are going to be really on their game, and the Celtics are going to learn some things. It might be a 6, maybe even 7 game series. That's possible, but I do think that the Warriors. I'd be really surprised if they didn't win this thing.
Well, that's the thing. Look, I can see the Celtics find a way to get 6 games. I feel like it may go 5, but I can see them getting 6. And I'm not saying they're going to get blown out in these games. You sort of said something to me where other teams are banged up, and we saw it be a huge deal with the Heat. Even the Celtics, the Warriors were banged up. They're not now. Like, where everyone's tired right now. They've been so hurt all year long that they're now healthy. Klay's finally playing, like, maybe not Klay exactly, but he looked a lot better in that game 6, than he had looked all playoffs. Steph had his moments where he's back to starting. Jordan Poole was starting over Steph, so he has confidence. You have Andrew Wiggins. You have all these guys, and they've done it in the finals, a lot of them. The Celtics team has flirted with it, but they haven't been here yet, and they're down to like 6, 7 guys. Like Pritchard, who was like their 8th guy, didn't even play really in game 7. They have their own health issues, and they have issues scoring at times. Like the Heat were banged up and were holding them. They held them to 100 points in that last game, and they had like 6 guys on the injury report, not even including Jimmy Butler. So to me, what do you think having back-to-back game 7 series versus a team that hasn't gone to 7 once? Because I feel like that's got to weigh on them a little bit.
Yeah, and the Warriors should get Gary Payton Jr. back at some point, perhaps Otto Porter, and maybe Iguodala back as well. So they're going to be in a position where they can really throw waves of guys at Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. We saw what Miami was doing as soon as those guys put the ball on the floor. They had a guy come over and interfere with their ball handling, and that forced a lot of turnovers. The Warriors are going to do much the same, I would imagine. And they've got, like I said, they've got waves of guys who can do that. Whereas the Celtics, like you mentioned, 7 deep. That's not, it's okay in terms of fatigue because of the young guys, and they're going to get 2 days off. They stretch the finals out so much, and get 2 days off between these games. But at the same time, it's going to be mentally exhausting because the Warriors are going to have so many different weapons to throw at you. And the Celtics and Ime Udoka mentioned this the other day that no matter what happens, Robert Williams is going to be real key. The way the Warriors cut to the basket, he's going to be a real key. He's got to be able to shut off those cuts to the basket. His knee is not 100%. It's not going to be 100%. He's going to be a game time decision every night. So, if there's nights that he can't play, Celtics are at a huge disadvantage. So, yeah, the depth is way in the favor of the Warriors here.
Last couple of things here with Sean Deveney. The one thing people are pointing to, and look, it is a strong stat, is the fact that like Steph Curry shoots like 29% against Marcus Smart, which I think is ridiculous, and I don't know if he plays like that against anyone. So I'll give that to the Celtics. I'm sure that's something in their favor. But again, when you talked about it with the cutting, one thing that Steph Curry's known for is being one of the guys who's the most active, not on defense, on offense. So, yes, Smart, I'm sure, plays him well, but how often is Smart defending him? So how important do you think that is? What do you think that does for the Celtics, knowing that Marcus Smart is that successful against Steph Curry?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's certainly a plus, but you're right. The Celtics switch everything, and the Warriors cut and screen a lot. And that means that whatever your initial matchups are going to be, probably not going to be the matchup that you have when the shot is taken, right? I mean, that's how all this works. So, I just don't think that that's going to matter that much. Steph Curry. The thing is, the Celtics are a great defensive team. They because they switch, that's going to make the cutting and the screening difficult for the Warriors. And the Celtics defend that as well as anybody. The problem is that the Warriors run that as better than anybody. They run that offense better than anybody, and they've been doing it for a long time. I was talking to a coach yesterday, a Western Conference coach, who, saying that the thing that the Warriors do is, you defend them well for 14, 15, 16 seconds, and then you make a mistake, you have a slight slip up, and they knock down a three on you, and you play great defense, and you still give up the 3 points, and that gets demoralizing. The thing that I've seen from the Celtics is that they can get demoralized. We saw that certainly in the if you go back through the Milwaukee series and then again in the Miami series, that can happen to them all through the whole season. I do think that the Warriors, just the way that they're able to knock down shots even against good defense, I think that's going to be tough for the Celtics.
All right, wrapping up here with Sean Deveney, editor for Heavy.com. He is author of books such as Glory, Fun City, others. We never talked to you about this, and that's on us, so I'll ask you this before you go. What do you have in the works now, Mr. Writer, Mr. Author Extraordinaire? Anything else coming up?
Actually, I've got a book that's coming out in a few months. It's the history of NBA in 12 games. So it goes through, picks out 12 games, and one of them is the LeBron game, that game 6. In 2012 in the Boston Garden, where he really changed his legacy. He had been sort of a loser to that point, and that kind of changed LeBron in general. Not just the view of him, but the actual the way he approached things on the floor. So that game is one. It goes all the way back to the first game with the 24-second shot clock, and it goes right through some of Steph Curry's exploits. So. It's the history of the NBA in 12 games. That'll be out in a few months, and I'll make sure you get a copy, of course, Lubie.
I'm sure we will talk to you before then. You're a guy that is very generous with his time, not only how long you talk to us, but how often you do. Appreciate you sneaking away to chat with us while the little one is busy, and I appreciate all you offer to the NBA world, to this show, and definitely look forward to talking about the book more, reading it, and talking to you more probably in the coming weeks about the NBA Finals. Thanks, Sean, for joining us. Have a great one, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks for having me.
You're welcome, Sean. All righty, so I know by now you're like, where is Defo? We need Defo. He's coming back soon. In the next few days, Defo will be back. He's over in Italy. He's having a good time. Do want to thank Sean Deveney for joining me. Hopefully, you have enjoyed that conversation, and it's going to be an interesting offseason for the Miami Heat. Can Kyle Lowry get in shape? Hopefully, he can. What happens with Oladipo? Do they go big player hunting in the form of a Donovan Mitchell or a Bradley Beal? What happens with Hero? Is he extended? Is he a starter? Is he better? Can they get Bam to be aggressive more than 2 out of 7 games when it comes to a playoff series, especially an important playoff series? We shall see. The finals will start tonight. I've been pretty consistent, and I'm not changing that. I think the Warriors will win in 5, but we do talk gambling. We do talk degeneracy and wagering. I would give myself an extra game, and I would say if I was betting, and I probably may, they're such a favorite that I won't get involved, and I've been around Defo too long to be a chalk-eating pig. But if I was betting, I would do, and I'd go for the Warriors in 6. And I'm sure that's what the biggest favorite line is right now. But it's the Warriors in 6. I think the Celtics, the games will be somewhat interesting. I don't think the Celtics will get housed. I just think the Warriors are better in every facet: depth, talent, star talent, coaching, experience, health, better at getting better. Where the Celtics are where they are, I don't think they're getting better. The Warriors are getting better. Clay's getting better. Draymond's getting better. We've seen Steph get better. And then the young guys are getting better. I just think they've had more time off, rest to even get healthier. It just feels to me, now again, Devo makes fun of me. I'm so in that, of course, the Celtics will win in 6. But from what I think, and even Deveney said, it feels like the Warriors. And even, look, some people are picking Celtics because they want to pick Celtics. But the reality is, most people think the Warriors are the better team right now. And I think that's what we'll see. So you'll see at 9 o'clock tonight on ABC. Tomorrow, check us out in the morning. Check me out No Defo, just Lubie. But it is a Degenerate Friday on our morning show, so you'll get some handicapping, and you get the Professor's Big Board. It is hilarious. It is classic, the Professor. Very acerbic, very honest, very funny. So check that out. Just Google the Defo Show, 7 to 9, live, DEFO, on Google. Check us out. Our exclusive content podcast today, I talked with Jeremy Evans. He's a sports attorney. He has his own podcast, Believe in Sports Law podcast. We talked about the Deshaun Watson saga. We talked about NIL and college football from an actual legal perspective with someone who knows what the hell they're talking about. So check that out. Believe, BLEAV.com. Search After Hours. And right here, each and every day with our South Florida content, the Defo Show. No Defo right now, just Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.